Oh, I want to get to this before I completely sort of forget my thoughts early on, because I think they show some interesting things. I had an old high school friend offered to come up here and visit, and I've talked a little bit about it in the gaming videos, but and I'm not entirely sure of the why of it. There was a time a few years back where I think he wanted to chase an eclipse and go see it that was coming near me, and was going to stop by and visit for that. And that felt kind of normal. Just like I had gone down to San Francisco, which is not far from where he lives, and he met me in the city, and we hung out for a good part of a day. And really, before that, I had not seen him, since early college days. If we both happened to be visiting my hometown at the same time. So it was kind of weird in that sense, and some of me thinks that it was sort of an intervention into, how dark I've gotten or whatever, in terms of just like, my view of life. But my view of life is in many ways very much in line with what it's always been. The only thing I can say that's really changed is experience, as that has piled up over the decades, and addiction. Having made that choice, which I'm not sure was the right one. And it may be the addiction that the intervention was for, although it didn't really feel along that lines. Really all we did was hung out together and did stuff, for the most part. But it was exhausting for me, not just being around someone for a while, but also that my house was such a total mess that I cleaned the shit out of it and basically spent a week doing about as much cleaning as I'm capable of in a week's time, whatever that means, which is I created piles of clutter that I threw some stuff out, there's no question of that, and I got some stuff in places it kind of belongs, but a lot of stuff was just move clutter from one room to another so that now I will not find it. It no longer is easily accessible, but at least, I could get around to cleaning things. And importantly, I cleaned both the kitchen and my bathroom, because both were pretty disgusting. And my bedroom too. None of which, really were necessary for the trip, but I'm like, these are really important and I was intending to do these. And while I'm sort of cleaning the downstairs where he's going to be and whatnot, I wanted to focus on getting my own stuff clean too. The kitchen absolutely needed to be cleaned, but like my bathroom and bedroom could have been left alone. However, they haven't been cleaned in many years. That's not entirely true. I clean the bathroom, but I clean it in parts. Like I'm like, oh, the area around the toilet needs cleaning, or oh, the tub needs cleaning, or the sink needs cleaning, and I don't have a completely clean bathroom anymore. I used to be better about it. My bedroom, normally it would be pull my bedding out, shake it out, vacuum, and that's about it. I did rearrange things, got my wife's computer down there, which I actually used last night, finally. I was able to face it. I'm using it for RAID because, which is not what I intended it for at all, but it's better able to cope. Like, there's a tool for RAID that doesn't support my operating system, but it supports this one, so it works a little better. Although I'm not really impressed. Raid was taking longer on that computer, but I think it's downloading all kinds of crap like constantly while playing. Which, you know, when I guess I didn't notice it early on because I didn't have all that crap. I had less characters and whatnot, but my main account is I'm not gonna say stacked, but it's pretty big. Anyway. And the first day he got here, kind of went out for a walk to go get food to eat. And we did that. That was fun. And then I suggested walking down to the river. I wasn't really intending as long a walk as it ended up being, but he had some things he wanted to see that were not far away from our walk to knock off on his to-do list or bucket list of things to do in Eugene. He got most of them. And I guess it was about a 10-mile walk total, and that kind of broke him. I mean, I was feeling it, but yeah, and I don't know what happened, but physically something, happened behind his knee or whatever. Wasn't a known condition, so I don't know. That ended up getting better over the weekend, but then like other things, But so we didn't go on any other long walks. We drove to like a couple of places. Museum, a raptor center. Yeah, there's just not that much that's really, really, exciting right here. And you got to go kind of far a drive to get to something that's, really a place that you want to see. But, yeah. The thing that I feel about this town is to kind of experience it. You kind of want to walk through it and walk around in it a lot. And just hitting a couple of whatever the highlights are doesn't show you anything, You want to get the feel for the town. You want to be here and interact with the streets and stuff like that. And that's how I feel everywhere. Like, I mean, I get my view of places when I visit them by just walking around in them a lot and not really necessarily understanding the layout always, but and certainly not hitting, whatever key points there are, because those usually, I don't know, they don't give you the spirit of the town. And it's the spirit of this town that is what drew me back to it again and again. Which you just can't see. You can't even see anything in a small visit. I don't know, because I was here one night and I wanted to come back. So it couldn't have been that bad. Like, I must have seen something here. And that's actually why I applied to school here. We also did some gaming. Nothing big. He brought a few games up for some reason that he wanted to play particularly. And we played 2 of those 3. One was a war game, and I just didn't feel like, I don't know, a World War II thing. Not something I really wanted to dig into the rules with. So we played a bunch of shorter games, and we reminisced about the past, and chatted about our current situations and family and whatnot. Yeah, I mean, this is someone that I got along with and was friends with in high school. But it really kind of highlighted something that I found interesting, which was, and I'm sure this is mutual, but there were little things that kind of grated, and that's fine. that's almost always the case with almost everyone. I can think of one person in my life who I'm sure that did not happen with early on, and that was my first wife. And everyone else that I've interacted with at any level for any length of time, I could kind of see those, and those kind of things can be overcome. But I get kind of the feeling that this was a situation where this is not someone I would be willing to live with. Like it would be fine if he's in town and we were gaming regularly or whatever, and went out to go for walks or whatever sometimes, or whatever happened. Although I kind of get the feeling that our interests outside of gaming are pretty divergent in a lot of ways, and even in gaming they're pretty divergent. He was actually the only person I really kind of brought into wargaming, but it hasn't really stuck. I mean, he plays war games, but lighter ones, but not, yeah. But after I got my first few S&Ts, that first bundle of used games, and said, I want this subscription, and sent away for a year's subscription to S&T. I ended up giving him my Napoleon at Waterloo freebie, which he played and decided, I guess, to order a subscription as well. So he was like one issue behind me or something, and I don't know if he got a second year. I don't think so. He just wasn't that into the war games, but our gaming group started taking up things like Kingmaker. We even played Third Reich once, or tried to. We sat down for 4 to 6 hours or something. One person had to leave early, then somebody else had to leave, and it was like we barely got to play at all because going through the rules was so long and everything. It's just like, and I don't think anybody was having that good a time. But we played things like Machiavelli and Kingmaker, I said, Civilization. Just a bunch of games that were, I would say, sort of war game adjacent for the most part. I don't know if I ever got them to play Empires of the Middle Ages as a group. We played Conquistador. But Empires of the Middle Ages is surprisingly easy for non-war gamers. Like, war gamers are at no real advantage in it, in terms of the systems and everything being similar to other games that they've played. But anyway, outside of all that, the realization that, this is someone I get along with, which is a very, very small slice of the world as a whole. I'm not, it's not like I meet people and I'm just instantly, negative with them or anything. It's nothing like that. It's just like, this is someone that I get along with, that I have things to talk about and with, that is not, there are some people that are in my slices of hobbydom or whatever that I'm like, instantly, this person is, I don't know if more autistic than I am sometimes, in the sense that they just can't really, they can't take any of the cues that you're not interested in something or whatever. And this wasn't as bad, but here's someone that I share at least an adjacency of interests with, and stuff like that, and some past and everything. But it really does kind of, once again, focus that lens of, there are so few people that I could really get along with. Now, the shared interests is kind of weird. One thing that's kind of funny, he likes the kind of wordplay and stuff that I like. But he actually brought something up that I did not like to hear, which was, it's fine when I do that, but I don't like when other people do it. Which is definitely the opposite of me. I expect it to be a banter that, is just sort of happens at regular intervals, where you notice a weird factoid, a weird facet of a phrase or something, and you misinterpret it or play with it or whatever in a certain way. And yeah, and I'm very much into that being sort of a collaborative effort, where one person takes off with it, and it doesn't matter which, and it's kind of like doing improv or something. You wanna kind of hand off and keep playing it as long as you kind of can, in whichever direction it's going, right? It could be both sides completely taking opposing views and continuing on with that, or it could be just batting it back and forth and escalating it to the more ridiculous each time. But yeah, and I think one of the things is, I think it's very, very hard for me to feel the kind of comfort that I expect to feel with males. There may have been one male in my life that I felt that with, that I felt kind of really like, yeah, this is someone that I wouldn't mind having around me all the time. Now, I lived with other guys in various situations, but I would often need to be alone a lot of the time. So I'd be up at night when nobody else was, and I'd be playing my game solo, or whatever, or I'd go out of the house for a walk or anything. And that's not the kind of living with that I really mean. I mean something where it's like, maybe there were two, I don't know. But it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell. One of the guys that I'm thinking of, I never lived with, so I can't really tell. And there were definitely things, in both cases, there were definitely things that really grated on me. Like I said, I think the only case where that wasn't a fact was with my first wife, and that, I don't know, that just was sort of like a sort of perfect mix in many ways, and I'm so sad that that should have never broken, is my feeling. But it's not like I want to try to get back with her or anything, although I certainly did at the time, soon afterwards and whatnot. But I did live with one guy who, boy, did he annoy me at times, but I don't know. He had a capacity to pull me out to do things, like go to bars or something like that, that I wouldn't otherwise, or play games even, that I wouldn't otherwise think about trying to do, and yeah. So there's that, and the other one, I don't know. Maybe aspects would have been way too irritating. It's hard to tell, but in both those cases, I felt like I got along in a way that there were never these sort of grating points of not feeling like the communications was really right. Now there was someone I was hanging out with a bit recently that I kind of felt that with, but I also kind of felt like we've worn out whatever interest we had in dealing with each other as well. So someone who lives around here that I went out with walks for and whatever, and it kind of feels like, yeah, there's not much more there between us, and I don't know, without shared interests or whatever, and without now this is a female, but without any kind of sexual energy or anything like that to kind of spur things on, and without any shared interests, it just kind of, there's only so far you can go when there's, when there's nothing there. And that was kind of what I sort of was running with there was, wow, the slice of people with whom I think I can really engage. I've always thought that it was pretty small, like well under 1%, that I could be really kind of comfortable with. And I think I'm beginning to realize it's a lot less than that. It's much less than that 1% that I put as the high bar. I think it's really, really tiny. And anyway, after he ended up heading off to the airport, and it was really cool to see him have somebody here. But again, I want to take away what I learned from something. I needed to decompress, but none of the stuff, I could have just gone and played Raid and whatever, and been on the computer. There's no question about that. But I also felt like I was at kind of a moment where shit could happen that's kind of more interesting. So I went for a walk yesterday, and unfortunately all I got was chafed and kind of tired, and didn't really want to continue on, which is often the feeling that I get from walks. It's just like, I think that I'm going to really enjoy it, but without a purpose, without something to go to that I really want, even on the trip there, it's, or even on the outward bound journey, not the I'm tired and coming home and want to get home as soon as possible. I get myself into this, unless I have something to be excited about that I kind of know I'm going to see or do, it's pretty hard. And I mean, that excited about, that can be sometimes just going shopping, right? Sometimes I can have a good walk going shopping. Sometimes I can have a good walk, I don't know now. I remember when I was in Buffalo, I would walk by all the houses that I lived in, or knew people that I really liked or whatever, and I would just hit those. They tended to be in the same neighborhood because it was all sort of the college slums, and I would just walk up and down the streets and remember things about a person in a house or something like that. It would just help remind me about parts of my life, but I don't have that here when I walk by, like the place I used to live, and maybe because no really fantastic times were built here in that sort of way. But I also don't get it by walking by the old bar to a place that I had, went to a party or something like that. I don't know. I don't know if something's died in me that used to be triggered in that way. And stuff like going to see the Duckies. they're not there yet, but it feels like that's gone downhill. Like when I had the ability to walk back, to come back home and tell my wife about the things I saw, that was worth something, but it's kind of not worth it for just me. And yeah, so there's the walk to go dancing, and that's about it. Shopping and every few weeks and dancing every week. And everything else, it kind of feels like I just don't really get into the mood of walking that I used to get into, which is a shame. But on that walking, I did think about the things that I talked about here, and that helped in one sense, I guess, even if I didn't take a lot of pleasure in it. And the most important thing, of course, was nothing happened. There was nothing of interest. And I feel like yesterday was a unique opportunity where I was actually open enough where like I could have met someone, of any type or whatever. I thought about going by the game store that's in Springfield. We actually went to the old game store I used to go to. I bought a bunch of GMT games and an Avalon Hill Breakout Normandy, whatever, which were all in their used, or we're trying to get rid of these pile. Kind of half price on we're trying to get rid of the GMT games. All of them ones I was vaguely interested in, but wasn't willing to pay half price plus shipping, but half price plus put in the car and end up at my house fine. Small sliver there. But yeah, that store has changed so much. They have it's got the regular storefront stuff and everything, but there's no open gaming in the store. There's a separate room where you can rent tables, essentially. And when I asked about, is there any gaming here? And I don't see any. And they told me, yeah, it's in the storefront across, and you spent enough, we'd waive the costs, your table reservation fee or whatever. I mean, the whole thing that was the point of the old store was it was a place you could drop in and find people who were gaming, as far as I was concerned. Like, if I'm going to make a reservation and figure things out and try to schedule things and everything, and I'd rather do it in my house. Now maybe not everybody would, because I'm going to be smoking my pipe in my house, but I would rather be in my house than, to be at an external location. All right, we're going to cut this here. Yeah, let's cut this here because I'm out of battery. All right.